The snow fell softly on Riverside Avenue, each flake drifting down like a whispered promise. The streetlights glowed warm against the winter darkness, and somewhere in the distance, church bells rang out their Christmas song. It was Christmas Eve, that magical night when the whole world seemed to hold its breath. Marcus Wellington sat alone on the cold metal bench at the bus stop. His expensive suit did nothing to keep out the chill, but he barely noticed. In his hand, a paper coffee cup sent thin wisps of steam into the frozen air. He stared at nothing in particular, his mind somewhere far away. Marcus was 42 years old. He owned 3 companies. He lived in a penthouse apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the entire city. He had everything money could buy. And tonight, on Christmas Eve, he had never felt more alone. The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago. His ex-wife had taken their daughter to her parents' house in California. Marcus had been invited, of course. But pride is a stubborn thing. He had told them he was too busy with work. Now he sat at a bus stop, with nowhere to go and no one waiting for him. That's when he heard the small voice. Mister. Marcus looked down. Standing before him was a little boy, maybe 3 or 4 years old. He wore a red sweater that had seen better days, faded jeans, and sneakers with worn-out soles. His cheeks were pink from the cold, and his curly brown hair poked out from beneath a knit cap, but it was his eyes that caught Marcus, big, brown, and full of something that looked like hope mixed with sadness. "Hello there," Marcus said gently. He looked around, searching for a parent. "Are you here with someone?" The boy pointed across the street to a small laundromat. Through the foggy window, Marcus could see a young woman folding clothes under harsh fluorescent lights. She looked tired, her shoulders bent with invisible weight. "That's my mom," the boy said. "She's working." "On Christmas Eve?" Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer. The world didn't stop turning just because it was a holiday. So many people couldn't afford for it to stop. The boy nodded. He took a few steps closer to the bench, his small hands clasped in front of him. For a moment, he didn't say anything. He just looked at Marcus with those serious eyes, as if trying to decide something important. Then, quietly, he spoke. "Mom said Santa forgot us again." The words hung in the cold air between them. Marcus felt something twist inside his chest, something that had been frozen for a very long time. "Again?" Marcus repeated softly. The boy nodded. "Last year too. And the year before. Mom says Santa has lots of kids to visit. She says maybe we're just too far down on the list." He paused, then added with the simple logic of childhood, "But I've been really good this year." Marcus set his coffee cup down on the bench. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, bringing himself closer to the boy's level. "I'm sure you have been," he said. "What's your name?" "Tommy." "Well, Tommy, I'm Marcus." He extended his hand, and Tommy shook it with the seriousness of a small businessman. "Can I tell you something?" Tommy nodded. "Sometimes," Marcus said slowly, choosing his words carefully, "Santa doesn't forget. Sometimes he just needs a little help. He's got a big job, you know. The whole world is a pretty big place." Tommy considered this. "You mean like helpers?" "He's seen helpers at the mall. But those are fake Santas. My friend Bobby told me." Marcus smiled, the first real smile he'd had in days. "Bobby's right about that. But I'm not talking about mall Santas. I'm talking about regular people. People who see other people who need help, and they do something about it." "Oh," Tommy said. He thought about this for a moment. "Are you a helper?" The question struck Marcus like a physical blow. Was he a helper? When was the last time he had helped anyone? He donated money to charities, sure. His accountant made sure of that every year for the tax write-off. But when was the last time he had actually seen someone who needed help and done something about it? When was the last time he had even noticed? "I'd like to be," Marcus said quietly. Tommy's face brightened. "Then maybe you could help Santa remember us?" Marcus looked across the street at the laundromat again. The woman, Tommy's mother, was still folding clothes, her movements mechanical and weary. He thought about his daughter, Emma, probably opening presents right now in California. He thought about his empty penthouse. He thought about all the money sitting in his bank accounts, doing nothing but accumulating more of itself. Tommy, Marcus said, I need to ask you something important. If Santa did remember you, what would you want him to bring? Tommy's eyes went wide. He bit his lip, thinking hard. Well, he said slowly, I really want a fire truck. A red one with a real ladder. But. He trailed off. But what? But Mom needs new shoes. Hair's got holes in them. And our heater is broken, so it's really cold at our apartment. And Mom cries sometimes when she thinks I'm sleeping because she's worried about bills. Tommy looked down at his feet. So maybe Santa should bring those things instead of a fire truck. Marcus felt his eyes burning. He blinked rapidly. When was the last time he had cried? He couldn't remember. Tommy, he said, his voice rough with emotion, what if I told you that Santa could bring all of those things? Tommy looked up, skeptical. That's a lot of stuff. Santa's pretty capable when he wants to be. Tommy's mother had noticed them talking now. She was walking across the street, concern written on her face. Marcus stood up as she approached. Tommy, you shouldn't bother people, she said gently, taking her son's hand. She looked at Marcus apologetically. I'm sorry. Is friendly with everyone. No apology necessary, Marcus said. We were just having a conversation about Christmas. My name is Marcus Wellington. She hesitated, then shook his hand. Sarah Chun. And you've met Tommy. Marcus looked at this woman, really looked at her. She couldn't have been more than 30. Her coat was thin. Her shoes did indeed have holes. But her eyes held fierce love and determination. She was fighting for her son, working through Christmas Eve to keep a roof over their heads. She was doing the best she could. She was, Marcus realized, far richer than he had ever been. Emma's chin, Marcus said, I know this is going to sound strange, but would you and Tommy do me a favor? Sarah looked wary. What kind of favor? Would you let me play Santa this year? For Tommy. For you. I'd like to help, if you'll let me. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. We're not a charity case, she said, but her voice wavered. I know you're not, Marcus said gently. But I'm a man who's been given more than he needs, sitting alone on Christmas Eve, and I just met a little boy who still believes in miracles. Please. Let me do this. Not because you need it, though I think you do, but because I need it. Sarah looked at her son, then back at Marcus. Something passed between them, an understanding that transcended words. Okay, she whispered. What happened next would become one of those stories that people tell and retell. Marcus closed the companies for 3 days. He fixed Sarah's heater personally, calling in the best technician in the city. He bought Tommy his fire truck, and a dozen other toys besides. He bought Sarah new shoes, a worn coat, and paid 3 months of her rent in advance. But more than that, he listened. He heard Sarah's story, her struggles, her dreams. And Sarah heard his story too, about loneliness, about loss, about forgetting what mattered. On Christmas morning, Marcus didn't wake up alone in his penthouse. He woke up in Sarah's small apartment, sleeping on the couch because he'd been invited for breakfast. Tommy had insisted. The fire truck was already half demolished with enthusiastic play. Sarah's new shoes sat by the door. The heater hummed its warm song. And Marcus Wellington, billionaire, realized something profound. Christmas hadn't forgotten anyone. He had forgotten Christmas. He had forgotten that the season wasn't about having everything, it was about giving everything you could. Outside, the snow continued to fall on Riverside Avenue. But inside that small apartment, 3 people sat around a second-hand table eating pancakes and laughing. They were, in that moment, exactly where they belonged. Santa, it turned out, hadn't forgotten them at all. They had just been waiting for the rat help